2026 is going to be a massive year for The Legend of Zelda, not only because it's the 40th anniversary, but also we're going to be seeing a bunch of fan favorite Legend of Zelda games. Now, the one game I want to specifically talk about is The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Now, Twilight Princess, as a fact, is a very interesting game. Now, it's not on the Nintendo Switch Online GameCube application, but Nintendo has been releasing a whole bunch of art for the game, releasing a whole bunch of promotional items, and even the entire story on what happened in between Twilight Princess and other Legend of Zelda games. The entire story, which is a very interesting thing, and this leads me to believe that we will be seeing Twilight Princess. Now, may this be Twilight Princess 1 Remaster, or may this be Twilight Princess 2, because Nintendo has also released some more concept art about The Legend of Zelda, which is very interesting to me, because if you take a look at it, the first picture, you can see Zelda and Minda standing beside each other with a war going around in the background. Now, if this is truly Twilight Princess, we're going to need to see some more story, kind of like we saw in Mario Galaxy 1+2 remasters for the Nintendo Switch, where you saw extra story for Rosalina's story, which is really interesting. Are we going to be seeing something like that in this so-called remaster in Twilight Princess, or is there going to be something different? Could this be even a brand new Legend of Zelda game that experience or explains a lot of different things that you didn't really know? Because one of the big questions was, are Zelda and Minda sisters at some point? Now, this would be a very interesting question, because if you look at the game itself, if you just take a step back and you're like, okay, so could this actually happen? Because inside of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, the first ever time you meet Zelda, Zelda is kind of wearing like a hood. She's keeping her head down, and this kind of looks similar to what Minda is wearing after you save her from the Twilight Realm and she becomes all sort of human again. Still kind of looks like an alien, but still human again, which is really interesting. And then what happened after that? Do they experience the entire story? Do they say anything else? They didn't say anything else. So for all we know, Zelda and Minda are completely separate things. Now, right now, if you look it up, is Zelda and Minda sisters or something like that? It's like there's no confirmation for that. So it doesn't really necessarily mean that this is going to be true, but it's still a theory. Now, in the terms of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess 2, I think that this could be a possibility for a game, because Twilight Princess was a very interesting game. It definitely wasn't like the base Legend of Zelda game where you go one world to the next world, you get all your items, which it technically is, I guess, but it definitely wasn't. It was kind of weirder. It was more scary and spooky and dark, and it had that dark experience that you would kind of like from a Legend of Zelda game, because it was just different. It was a different game. And how could this work? Because we know that the Twilight Realm isn't necessarily a mirror dimension. It's more like a parallel dimension to Hyrule. Now, yes, there is a difference in between a mirror dimension and a parallel dimension. Now, mirror dimension would pretty much be the same exact people, the same everything that you're seeing from Hyrule to this, but now this is a parallel dimension which goes alongside Hyrule in some way, because we know that inside of Twilight Princess, or more inside of the Twilight Realm, there's only two ways to get more sunlight. The only way is to get two scattered orbs around the universe to get sunlight down on there. But if you look at this picture right here, you can see that it looks more like sunlight kind of going through the clouds. Now, could this war be taking place on Hyrule? That Zelda, Minda, and Link are fighting by their sides once again to get rid of all this darkness? Or is this a new concept art for a Hyrule Warriors game? Because the background and all of the characters and all of the bad guys there's so many. There's like over 1,000 bad guys, and usually Hyrule Warriors is very well known for getting a whole bunch of enemies together, throwing them all down and say, okay, go ahead and go and attack. So this is a very interesting thing. And I do believe that it's a possibility that Zelda and Minda could be related in some way, because Zelda is, of course, the descendant of the goddess, and then Minda could also be a descendant of a goddess from the Twilight Realm, because she like sort of grew up in the Twilight Realm. So since it's a mirror dimension, it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact same. They don't have to look the same. It could be kind of mirrored in between Hyrule and the Twilight Realm. So these two things together would make a pretty good sense of these two characters being sisters or being related in some way. And with this realization, we could potentially see a bigger picture into what unfolds in Twilight Princess and the Twilight Realm and everything associated with the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. It's very, very interesting. So does this mean that could we be seeing Twilight Princess 2? Because of, again, all of this art, everything that they're sending out, they are sending out the entire story of what happened in Twilight Princess. You can go out to a store and buy this. They were also doing some sort of giveaway for all the books that gave you the entire story of Twilight Princess. So may this be the first game is coming back to the Nintendo Switch 1 or 2, or may this be that Twilight Princess 2 will be the next mainline Legend of Zelda game, because for so long, so many Legend of Zelda fans wanted a more original style of Legend of Zelda. So instead of your weapons breaking, being able to explore wherever you want, and all of that stuff, they want to go back to dungeon style of Legend of Zelda. And what better way to do that than Twilight Princess? Because out of any Legend of Zelda game, I feel like that game right there was the game that kind of sort of left off on a cliffhanger. Sure, Minda is finally saved, but then she's all a person once again. And then the game just kind of cuts off and is like, the end. Wow, what in the world? Are they gonna do anything? What's going on here? So it's something that you definitely got to take a look at. Maybe Nintendo is looking at this and being like, you know what? We're going to release Twilight Princess 2. Everyone's going to love it. They're going to be like, wow, we're going to return to format. This is going to happen. Now, of course, there's always the possibility of seeing a different Legend of Zelda games. Like the leaks suggest, we were going to be seeing another open world sort of Legend of Zelda game sometime soon, because Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is the most highest selling Nintendo or Legend of Zelda game as a fact. So what exactly does this mean? Are we going to stay with that format forever, or are we going to go back to different formats that the Legend of Zelda had? Now, it's very possible that we could go back to the past Legend of Zelda games, which would honestly make sense, and I feel like make a lot of Legend of Zelda fans happy. They can go and reconnect stories and see what happened there, but also I feel like this would be more sort of a remake. Now, you would see the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Now, we did get this game a bunch. 3 different platforms you were able to get Twilight Princess. Now, I don't think we will be seeing the HD version of that game, but more so a different game, because they've just remastered this game a bunch of times. I, of course, could be wrong, because so far lately Nintendo has just been releasing a lot of remasters and then charging $70 for them, which, hey, they're not bad remasters by any means. It's nice to see these games on the Nintendo Switch, but of course, remakes make your games, or a true remaster, make your games so much awesomer, so much greater to go and play once again, and it just makes you leave the question, okay, so what happened with Twilight Princess? Could we finally be seeing another dark Legend of Zelda game? Because I don't know if you so much considered the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom as a more dark Legend of Zelda game. Now, of course, this definitely was a different spin on the Legend of Zelda, but I don't think it was exactly come to par with Twilight Princess. So, with all of that stuff out of the way, to answer the major question, the big question, could this actually be happening? I think so, and we'll finally be seeing the entire story on what happened. Could Zelda and Minda be related at some point? I think that it could be possible because of what is the Twilight Realm. What happens here? A mirror dimension. They don't necessarily have to be from the same sort of fathers and stuff, but they could be from the same sort of goddesses, because if you look like at a Legend of Zelda game, like A Link Between Worlds, this explains a story on what can happen in between realities and different dimensions really, really well. Because if you don't remember, in that game, Ravio was actually a descendant of Link, but more from the Dark World, which changed everything, and he looked like Link, but also wasn't really Link, which all of these things, and then we had Hilda, which was Zelda from that mirror dimension, but I would say that those two are sort of kind of related, and then Link sort of has a brother inside of A Link Between Worlds. Talking about all this dimension stuff is a little bit confusing, but it's a big possibility of this could be happening to the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, because Also, one thing that I want to mention is A Link to the Past was a great game. It explains story, but then it was the entire game put extra story to it, which made it amazing and gave you extra bonus juicy content that you wouldn't seen otherwise, which is amazing. It is just so good. So overall, I think that Twilight Princess 2 could be coming soon, and these are all of my reasonings for that, which is honestly really awesome. As long as we don't see it on the Nintendo Switch 2 GameCube application or Twilight Princess, maybe we're going to be seeing 1 and 2. Who knows? This is all a bunch of crazy stuff, but I'm super excited for The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Anyways, what do you think about all of this nonsense? Do you think that we will be seeing Twilight Princess 1 or Twilight Princess 2 on the Nintendo Switch 2? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you have a fantastic day. And let me know what you think about all of this Legend of Zelda nonsense in the comments section down below. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.